Welcome to the channel, guys. My name is Jess. So Bitcoin has just experienced a major structural breakdown on the short time frame, resulting in a retest and rejection from the 2025 downtrend. We're going to jump into today's video to talk about the possibility of a bounce here as we retest current support, and otherwise what the high time frame implications could be of this recent correction. Could this be the end of the line for Bitcoin for the time being and the start of a long road downwards? Before we dive in, make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe to the channel to get regular Bitcoin analysis every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. That new schedule will be starting next week. So as soon as next Wednesday starts, we'll go Wednesday, Friday, and then Sunday. So 3 video uploads a week. And join my free Telegram as well if you want more regular Bitcoin updates. If you're a trader and you're interested in my VIP channel, be sure to message me on Telegram to get more details. VIP gives you exclusive access to my personal trading setups with exact entry points, targets, and stop losses. Alrighty guys, so jumping into the charts, let's talk about the recent price action before we dive into our analysis. So right off the bat here, on a 4-hour time frame, we can see the structural breakdown that we're talking about. Over the last 2 to 3 weeks, Bitcoin's been traveling in this pretty intense uptrend, right? And as we were traveling in that uptrend, we were also approaching a major structural downtrend. Now on the daily time frame, you guys can see it really well. It is our 2025 downtrend, right? So if we continue to move in that short time frame upwards trajectory and push above the 2025 downtrend, that would obviously have resulted in a really massive breakout, right? Where if we pushed above $92,000, we could have seen a big push right up to the next level of significance at 100,000, and then beyond that 110 possibly. So it was a really big week for Bitcoin. But unfortunately, in the last 24 hours, we can see here on the short time frame that we did really lose a lot of bullish momentum moving into the resistance here. We had a massive buildup in selling pressure, and that eventually led to the loss of support here, our structural support, as well as the 50 EMA. And so Bitcoin tumbled all the way back down to retest the prior low here in that uptrend at $84,000 to $85,000. So that is our current key level of short time frame support. If we take a look at market data, we can see a couple people did actually get caught on the wrong side of this move. Liquidations spiked up 170% or nearly 170% in the last 24 hours, and we had nearly $500 million in liquidations across the board, most of them of course being from long liquidations. So taking a look at altcoins as well, we can see that they faked out of a massive descending wedge structure. Obviously, as Bitcoin rejected, altcoins started to plummet as well. We weren't able to reclaim $840 billion as the level of support, as well as that 50 EMA, and that a rejection led to the fake out and the breakdown of total 3 back within this sort of massive downtrend over here. And so we should be headed back towards this lower level of support at around $720 billion. So naturally, looking at this total 3 and Bitcoin, things aren't looking the best. We moved from looking potentially really bullish, right? We were setting up for quite a large breakout. On the daily chart, momentum had started to flip positive. On the weekly time frame, we bounced on a major level of macro support, the 50 EMA, but all of that still wasn't really enough to see that breakout just yet. So we're going to dive into the video today to talk about, first of all, in the short time frame, the possibility of a bounce. We are at current support. And then otherwise, on the daily chart, what's going to signal, and on the weekly time frame as well, what's going to signal a continued breakdown for Bitcoin, and how low can we really go from this rejection? How significant is it on the high time frame? So on the short time frame, with Bitcoin being currently at support, that is sort of in the next 24 hours, our key indicator for whether or not this breakdown on the short time frame is going to result in higher time frame consequences, or whether or not it's just a short time frame breakdown and it's a blip, right? And it's going to not really have those flow-on consequences that we're really worried about in that sort of uptrend loss and a rejection from the 2025 downtrend. So if we take a look and we zoom in just a little bit into the 1-hour time frame, we can see the level of support very clearly, right? We have sell side liquidity at that red line at 83,553. In the next 24 hours, if we see Bitcoin break down from this level of support, it is very likely then that we are going to see a continued bearish descent on the short time frame. And it's very likely as well that since we've rejected from the 25 downtrend, there are going to be potentially much higher time frame consequences for that little move as well. So on the way downwards, the key levels that we're looking out for on the 4-hour time frame are the prior lows within this uptrend, right? So starting off, we have the next level of support at 81,500. We have a level of support here at 80,100, and then of course the range low at $76,500. You guys can also map it out on the Smart Money Concepts indicator over here, right? That shows you the liquidity zones that Bitcoin will enter on the way downwards, and then losing those liquidity zones will continue to retrace to those prior zones. Now, on the flip side, if we manage to get a bounce here from Bitcoin, what's essentially going to happen is we either see enough of a bounce to push us back above the 50 and 200 on the short time frame, and push above the 2025 downtrend on the daily chart, right? And which also includes pushing above the 50 EMA that has perfect confluence with that downtrend. That is what's going to signal that, you know, this little breakdown that we've had on the short time frame is just a blip. And until we see that, it's more, I guess, probable that the rejection is going to continue. So essentially on the short time frame, now that we've lost our short time frame uptrend here, the charts are no longer looking bullish, and instead we're sort of entering what would be a neutral territory. Bitcoin hasn't formed a lower high yet, right? So it's currently still sitting at prior support, and so this is our neutral territory. This is our key bearish trigger on the short time frame to retrace to these lower levels, which do for the most part have high time frame consequences if we continue to be below those levels on the daily and the weekly time frame. And then above here, if we're able to push above resistance at $88,000, that is the trigger for entering potentially bullish price action on the short time frame, moving up to retest resistance once again at $91,000 to $92,000. Now, moving away from the short time frame and into the higher time frame charts is where we can truly understand just how significant and how critical the current position of Bitcoin really is. So we have our short time frame bullish and bearish triggers, right? And we know what's going to trigger either move. We're in a current, neutral territory. On the daily chart, we can see that if Bitcoin does not manage to actually sustain this level as support and, see that push above and towards those bullish triggers, we risk what could be a actual correction, right? We've seen 4% move, like a really, really tiny move, $500 million in liquidations. In the grand scale of things, that's really nothing for Bitcoin and the crypto markets, right? But if we go on to lose that level of support and very likely then move back down towards $76,000, this range low over here, what we'll also see here on the daily time frame is a breakdown of the momentum uptrend that we've been building for the last couple of weeks, the last month, and in that scenario continue to reject downwards, right? Therefore, again, confirming that move down to $76,000 and seeing a much larger correction. And the reason why that's so important is because if we go ahead and take a look at the Gaussian channel on the 3-day time frame, we can see that the continued move back down to 76 and the breakdown on those shorter and daily timeframes would very likely result in a breakdown of the 3-day Gaussian channel, as well as on the weekly chart, the breakdown of the 50 EMA. Now, both of those indicators, and I'll explain a little more in a second, have historically been very important and crucial indicators for Bitcoin's, phase, right? When we push above the 50 EMA, generally we enter accumulation in the bull market, and in pushing back below the 50 EMA and remaining below it, we generally see a very high time frame bearish trajectory, right? And so we definitely don't want to see those things happen, and all that would happen if we don't manage to hold the current levels. What we are in quite a critical position right now. So first of all, I think the 50 EMA is pretty self-explanatory. You guys can see it on the charts and how it's been behaving as that sort of macro indicator. But let me really quickly explain the Gaussian channel midline and the eventual breakdown that we're seeing here. So in the past, what has signaled and confirmed the bear market in the past, or the start of a high time frame, a really bearish trajectory here on the 3-day time frame, is on the Gaussian channel. So obviously, we can see 2021 was quite interesting. We had, sort of this deviation rally and massive amount of bearish divergence, and then that we had, eventual bear market. But what we saw here was we had a breakdown of the Gaussian channel, and then a flip of the midline later when we retested that, a flip of that as support, right? We can see we tested that and we bounced, and that is what resulted in the secondary rally over here. And then over here, when we break down from the Gaussian channel, it is the inability to push above the midline here, right? It's rejection this time as opposed to support that results in the high time frame bearish descent here for Bitcoin all the way down to 16,000 and, the bear market. Now, if we go over and take a look at our current price action, what we're seeing right now is not exactly the same because history isn't always exactly the same, but we're seeing a breakdown into the Gaussian channel, a consistent rejection and retest of the Gaussian channel midline, right? That massive level that we just talked about. And if we continue to see the breakdown here from Bitcoin and a move down to $76,000, that means that we will have rejected from the midline and broken back below the Gaussian channel once again, right? So that is pretty much exactly the same as what we saw over here, right, when we entered the bear market for real, the rejection from the Gaussian channel and the breakdown over here. So we've got a really, really crucial next 24 hours of price action, guys. And we have our key triggers and exactly what to be looking out for. So then with that in mind, let's talk about where Bitcoin could go. So in terms of the bullish case scenario, if we end up, flipping the charts and going back above $92,000, that massive level of resistance, we already have our sort of, key levels that we're looking for on the way up. We have $99,000, right? The prior horizontal channel that Bitcoin is in. Every time we establish 99,000 as a base of support, we generally go up to retrace new highs, 108, 110, right? So same sort of analysis applies to the future over here. If we push above, we'll go into the channel, push above this, bounce on support, we'll go up to new highs, right? That's sort of the bullish trajectory. We've talked about it many, many times in old videos. On the flip side, on the way downwards, if we end up going below 76,000, we see all those bearish indicators that we just talked about on the 3-day and the weekly time frame. The next sort of trajectory that we have for Bitcoin then is a movement to 74,000, this major prior high here, right? It was a huge level of resistance and will coincidingly be a huge level of support. And then moving beyond that, we enter back into a really, really large historical range, going back down to $52,000, right? That was that sort of range. We had a descending channel over here, right? And we had a lot of sort of chop in between the upper band of resistance and this lower band of support. So if Bitcoin falls below, we can see we've got a massive decrease in the VRPV profile, and it's very likely that we'll see a continuation towards that sort of $52,000 to $55,000 region. Alrighty guys, that is a wrap on the analysis today. Thank you for tuning in for another episode. If you guys liked the video or you learned something, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel to get regular Bitcoin analysis every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And join my free Telegram channel for more regular updates. If you're a trader and you're interested in my VIP channel, don't forget to contact me on Telegram for more details. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!